All right, so we're talking about figurative language today. I don't know if you recall, but on Tuesday, I mentioned that we were going to read a short story called The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. And in that short story, he uses a lot of figurative language. So I thought it'd probably be a good idea to introduce you to the different types of figurative language before we started reading that. So these are learning targets for today. One, I can explain the difference between figurative and literal language. Two, I can identify examples of figurative language from literature. And three, I can create original examples of similes and metaphors. Our Unique is joining us. Good morning, Unique. Welcome back, McKenna. Here's the link again to our Nearpod. Unique, just click on that link and join us on our Nearpod. All right. And let me know if you have any issues getting in. McKenna's back in. Unique, are you able to get in? You having any trouble? I need to start posting this link ahead of time in Google Classroom, so that's my fault. Unique, you with us? Were you able to click the link? Hit your refresh button. If your screen is white, hit your refresh button at the top. And she's gone. All right, well, we'll get started again. So, McKenna, just to go back, if you remember on Tuesday, to be honest, I can't remember if you were with us or not. We talked about reading the short story called The Telltale Heart. And that's a short story by Edgar Allan Poe, and in it, he uses a ton of figurative language. So I thought it would be a good idea to introduce you to what figurative language is and the different types before we start reading that. So these are our learning targets. Again, I can explain the difference between figurative and literal language. I can identify examples of figurative language from literature, and I can create original examples of similes and metaphors. So, what is figurative language? Well, it is any use of language that goes beyond the literal meaning of the words themselves. So, what is literal meaning? Does anybody know? Well, the definition is on the screen. So, literal meaning is taking words in their usual or most basic sense without metaphor or allegory. So, what does that mean? So, let's look at the example. This hopefully can kind of clear that up for you, the difference. So the literal meaning of know your ropes. Has anybody ever heard know your ropes? It's just a figure of speech. Anybody unmute and tell me if they've heard that? Anybody? Is anybody with me? Has anybody ever heard that phrase, know your ropes? All right, welcome back, Unique. There's the link again. If you click on it and your screen is white, like McKenna said, just refresh your screen and it should pop up. Anyways, back to what we were saying. Know your ropes. The literal meaning of know your ropes is to know a lot about ropes. But if we were to look at that figuratively, meaning we were going to look at it beyond the literal meaning, it means to know a lot about how to do something. So that's the difference in figurative and literal meaning. Literal means you take the words exactly as they're written on the page. Figurative means you go beyond how they're written and you find another meaning for them. So in The Telltale Heart that we're going to read next week, Edgar Allan Poe, the author, uses this type of language, figurative language, a lot in that story. So let's look at some examples of figurative language, or like I said, figures of speech, one of them being personification. This is the projection of characteristics that normally belong only to humans onto inanimate objects, animals, deities, or gods, or forces of nature. So you're taking something that's not human and you're giving it human characteristics. For example, an angry sky. And we know the sky can't be angry. Being angry is a human emotion, so we're putting that human emotion onto the sky. Books were her constant companions. So what are companions? Humans are companions. They can be your friends. Books are not capable in the literal sense of being your companion, but they can give you comfort figuratively, so they can be your companion that way. And that car is a beauty. So a car cannot be technically beautiful. A human being is beautiful, but you can put that characteristic onto a car. If you think a car looks good, you can say that car is beautiful. Does that make sense? Anybody? All right, your silence tells me that it does make sense. Yes, thank you, Unique. All right, next is alliteration. This is the repetition of the initial consonant sound of consecutive or near consecutive words for effect. So the initial consonant sound means the very first letter in the word. Consonant sound is anything other than a vowel. Your vowels are A, E, I, O, U. So in this example, the slithering snake slid sideways silently. So the initial consonant sound in this sentence would be the S sound, so or S. So anytime you write a sentence and the first letter of all of the words makes the same sound, that gives the effect of a type of figurative language. Any questions on that one? Okay. So next, hyperbole. Has anybody ever heard of a hyperbole? Well, it's the use of exaggeration for emphasis or other specific effects, such as humor. So, for example, I could have died of embarrassment. So, you're not literally going to die if you get embarrassed. However, it's a way to exaggerate how embarrassed you were. So, if you were in the middle of class and the person you had a crush on sat next to you, you said something you thought was really stupid and you got embarrassed, you might have told your buddy later, man, I could have died of embarrassment when I said that. You're not literally going to die if you get embarrassed. Does anybody want to offer up another example of hyperbole? Can anybody do it? You might want to unmute so I don't have to keep clicking over and tell me. All right. Well, I'm glad everybody is really enjoying my lesson today. So I appreciate that. That's sarcasm, by the way. So next, this is one of the most common types of figurative language. It's called a simile. Does anybody know what a simile is before I read this? Okay, I guess you know I'm going to read it, so you're not going to answer. But it's a comparison between two things that aren't necessarily alike by using the words like or as. So, for example, her eyes shone like diamonds. Her eyes aren't literally diamonds. But this person's comparing this girl's eyes to diamonds using the word like there. The next one, he was as strong as a horse. So he's not literally a horse or strong as a horse. They're just comparing his strength to that of a horse using these words as. All right, on this one, write a sentence using a simile to compare two things. So this is where you're actually going to type in the bottom here where it says share your thoughts. And then you'll click post when you're done. So everybody write a sentence using a simile. So I'm going to join in here. All right, so I typed one. He was as scared as a snake. So I'm comparing the guy and his emotions to a snake. And I did that by using a simile, which is comparing two things using the words like or as. So does anybody want to post something here? Anybody want to do a simile? Just compare two things using the words like or as. Anybody? Everybody, come on. Savannah, thank you. She was as pretty as a worm. Wow. I didn't know worms were pretty, but that's good. Thank you. That's an excellent example.
I didn't know what to say, so I just put that.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. Colton, she was as pretty. Very funny.
Come on, I can't think.
Well, at least that's a simile, so thank you for that.
Yeah, well,
All right, McKenna, Corey, Unique. Let's see what you got. Well, all right, Unique. He was clean as a pin. Yes. I don't know how clean pins are, but that is a good example of a simile. Thank you. McKenna, it's raining cats and dogs. Now, did you use the word like or as there? No. So would it be a simile then? She was as mad as a bull. But if it's going to be a simile, you've got to use those words like or as. Now, what you did, that is another type of figurative language. That's probably hyperbole a little bit, and that could be a metaphor. So, a metaphor that we'll talk about in just a second, that's a good metaphor, but if you wanted to use that as a simile, here, let me write it in. There. Do you see that pop up, the one I just typed?
yeah.
Yeah. See, the only difference there is it uses the word like. they're both, your statement and my statement are comparing two things, but one is a simile and one is a metaphor. She was as pretty as a blossom. Now, that's perfect. That is a simile. Nice job. Corey, she was mad as a bull. Perfect. Those are all good examples of simile. Remember, a simile is comparing two things that aren't necessarily alike using the words like or as. So nice job, everybody. So like I was just mentioning, a metaphor. That's another one of the most common forms of figurative language. And it's a comparison of two subjects without using the words like or as. So for example, life is a roller coaster. So in this instance, we're comparing the ups and downs of life that we're all familiar with to a roller coaster. And we all know that roller coasters go up and down. So again, McKenna, that first thing you typed in there was a good example of a metaphor. All right. So, which one of these sentences uses a metaphor to compare two things? Remember what we just talked about. The definition is we're comparing two things without using the words like or as. You've got to be comparing one thing to another thing. Okay? So as you're reading those sentences, just think about that. Think about the definition. We're comparing two things without using the words like or as, but we've got to be comparing something. Okay. Does everybody see the correct answer down there? Anybody want to read that for me? Will someone read that for me?
All right, what are we reading? I don't see it.
It's not letting me click in button.
Can you scroll down and see what? You see a big pie that's green and red and gray?
Yeah.
Can you scroll
Correct, incorrect, no answer. My little brother was lazy, correct. My little brother was a couch potato, correct. My little brother is lazy, and I don't know if this is.
down? Hippopotamus. All right, so why is my little brother is a couch potato correct? Why is that the right answer to that?
Because you used the
Here's a
metaphor.
couch potato.
Right, it's a metaphor.
Yeah.
And he's being compared to a couch potato. But why isn't my little brother is as lazy as a hippopotamus correct?
Says she's lazy, but
It wasn't a metaphor. Hippopotamuses aren't lazy.
Right, we're using a metaphor. So what is my little brother is as lazy as a hippopotamus?
overreact.
Now, what is that sentence? What have we just talked about before this?
A simile.
A simile, that's right. Good job. It's a simile because he's comparing his little brother being lazy like a hippopotamus using the word as. So why isn't my little brother is lazy correct?
It's a simile.
Is he comparing his brother to anything in that sentence?
No.
No. So that's, you've got to compare two things if you're going to use a metaphor. So my brother is lazy. They're just saying that he's lazy. It's not being compared to anything. All right, so let's move on. All right, I was going to show this video, but I don't think I'm going to. I may post it later so you can watch it. And they're both fairly long, so we'll skip them for now, and then we'll play this little game here. What do you think? All right, so about this activity. This activity provides a fun, hopefully, and competitive way for students, you all, to review figurative language. Students will race to the top of the mountain by answering the following questions quickly and accurately. Now, I will say I tried to play this last night, and there are a timer attached to each question, and it goes pretty quick, so just do the best you can. If it will come up here. I love it when our computers don't act right. There we go. Here we go. Okay, are you ready? Choose your character.
Yeah, what it was.
All right, Savannah and Corey are in. We're waiting. Where's everybody else? McKenna. We're waiting on Colton. Unique. There you are. Cole, where are you at? All right, let's do it.
I couldn't get Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle while looking over and looking at words.
Literal language is meant to be taken as it is written. The words mean what they say. Figurative language is the opposite because of what? It is written in a different language. It is never true and always a lie. It uses wordplay that suggests meaning instead of just stating it, or it has no meaning and is used only for decoration.
I can't hear you because of the music.
I couldn't hear you.
Oh, that's unfortunate. All right, next. I'll try to read louder. Which of these is a reason writers might use figurative language? To tell about facts that literal language cannot, to enhance their writing and make it more interesting, to write fiction since literal language cannot be used in fiction, or all of the above. God, that is loud, isn't it? All right, next. A simile is a kind of figurative language that helps describe something by comparing it to something else entirely in a non-literal way. They most often include the word like or as. For example, he cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Which of the following is another example of a simile? John was just as fast as Kate, so the race was a lie. A tie. Her crime was a heavy weight around her neck. They aren't as smart as they think. She ate the cake like a vacuum cleaner sucking up dust. All right, next. Metaphor is a kind of figurative language that describes something as though it were something else to make them seem more alike. They often include the word is or was. For example, no one paid any attention to Heidi. She was a tiny fly on the wall. Which of the following is also an example of a metaphor? The sky was dark and ominous, so no one wanted to leave. Greta is a brick wall. No one is scoring on her. Keith was as big as a house. By the time he was 18, the dogs were wary of intruders and bared their teeth at everyone. All right, next. Yeah. Personification is a kind of figurative language that helps describe something that's not human by describing it as though it was human. It often includes the words that only apply to living things. Example, the hungry